Crack in the frame. The wine glass shattered against the hardwood floor, its crimson contents pooling like blood at my feet. Sarah's laughter froze mid-breath, her eyes wide, locked on mine across the dining room. The room smelled of rosemary and betrayal, the roasted lamb on the table now a mocking centerpiece to our unraveling. "It was a joke," she whispered, her voice brittle but the neighbor's words, "I'll take him," hung in the air, heavy as smoke, no longer playful. Mark, our neighbor, leaned back in his chair, his smirk faltering, his fingers tightening around his own glass. I stood there, my pulse hammering in my ears, the shards of glass glinting under the chandelier's light. Something was wrong. Not just wrong, broken. Dinner parties were our ritual, a carefully curated performance of suburban bliss. Sarah's idea always. She'd flutter around the house, adjusting candles, fluffing pillows, her auburn hair catching the light like a halo. Tonight, though, her hands had trembled when she poured the wine. I'd noticed it, her knuckles whitening, the bottle clinking against the rim of my glass. I'd brushed it off as nerves. She'd been distant lately, her smiles too quick, her touches fleeting. I told myself it was work stress, or maybe the strain of trying for a baby that never came. Denial is a soft blanket until it smothers you. Mark and his wife Claire lived next door, their modern colonial a mirror to ours. Same beige siding, same manicured lawn. Claire was quiet tonight, her fork scraping her plate in slow, deliberate scratches. Mark, though, was all charm. His stories about his tech startup filling the silences Sarah left behind. When Sarah made her joke, "Who wants to trade my husband?" it was meant to land lightly, a playful jab at my obsession with restoring old furniture. But Mark's response, low and deliberate, "I'll take him," wasn't a punchline. His eyes lingered on Sarah, not me, and her laugh cracked like thin ice. I replayed the moment as I swept up the glass, the broom's bristles hissing against the floor. Sarah's face had flushed, not with embarrassment but something else. Guilt? Fear. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but the weight of Claire's silence across the table kept me tethered. She hadn't laughed either. Her eyes, dark and unreadable, followed Mark like a hawk tracking prey. "You okay, Tom?" Sarah's voice was soft now, her hand brushing my arm as we cleared the dishes later. The kitchen smelled of lemon dish soap, but it couldn't mask the sourness in my chest. I wanted to believe her touch was sincere, that the warmth in her hazel eyes was still mine. But her phone buzzed on the counter, and she flinched, a small, betraying twitch. I glimpsed the screen before she snatched it away. A text from Mark. "Tomorrow." My stomach twisted. "Who's that?" I asked, keeping my voice steady, though my hands shook as I stacked plates in the sink. "Just work," she said too quickly, her fingers fumbling to lock the phone. She turned away, busying herself with the leftovers, but the air between us thickened. I thought of the late nights she'd been working, the client dinners that stretched past midnight, her perfume lingering on her coat when she came home. I'd rationalized it all. Her ambition, her drive. Sarah was a graphic designer, always chasing the next big project. But now, each memory felt like a puzzle piece I'd forced into the wrong place. The next morning, I couldn't shake the unease. The house was too quiet. The ticking of the grandfather clock I'd restored a relentless reminder of time slipping away. Sarah left early, claiming a deadline. I stood at the window, watching her car pull out, the taillights glowing like embers in the dawn. Across the street, Mark's garage door opened. He stepped out, his phone pressed to his ear. His voice low but carrying in the still air. "Yeah, I'll be there," he said, glancing toward our house before climbing into his SUV. My heart pounded, a drumbeat of doubt. I didn't want to be that guy, the paranoid husband snooping through her things. But the image of that text, "Tomorrow," burned behind my eyes. I opened her laptop, left carelessly on the coffee table. Her password was still our anniversary date. The familiarity of it stung. Her email was a mess of work threads, but one folder caught my eye. Personal. Inside, a chain of messages with Mark, time-stamped over months. "Missed you at the coffee shop. Can't stop thinking about last night. Claire suspects something. The words blurred as my breath caught. I scrolled, each message a knife twisting deeper. They'd been meeting at a hotel downtown, passing it off as work. Sarah's replies were cautious but undeniable. I feel alive with you. I slammed the laptop shut, my chest tight, the room spinning. The life we'd built, our late-night talks, our shared dreams of a family, felt like a house of cards collapsing. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed proof, something tangible to hold up against her lies. That evening I followed her. She'd said she was meeting a client at a bistro downtown. The city was alive with neon lights and the hum of traffic, but I felt like a ghost, trailing her car through the rain-slicked streets. She parked outside a hotel, not a restaurant. Mark's SUV was already there. I watched from across the street, rain soaking my jacket, as they met in the lobby. Her hand brushed his arm, the same way it had brushed mine last night. They disappeared into an elevator, and I stood there, frozen, the world narrowing to the ache in my chest. Back home I waited. The house smelled of her lavender candles, now nauseating. When she walked in at 11 p.m., her hair damp from the rain, I was sitting in the dark. "Tom," she said, startled, her purse slipping to the floor. "Why are you up? Where were you?" My voice was calm, but it trembled at the edges. Her eyes darted, searching for an escape. "I told you, a client meeting. With Mark." The name landed like a grenade. Her face crumpled, and for a moment I saw the Sarah I loved, vulnerable, human. But then her shoulders squared, and she lied again. "It's not what you think." "Don't," I snapped, my voice breaking. "I saw you. I read the emails." The truth spilled out, raw and jagged, tearing through the silence. She sank onto the couch, her hands covering her face, sobs shaking her frame. I wanted to comfort her, to hate her, to scream, all at once. "Why?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she choked out. "It was a mistake, but it felt like something I needed. You were always so focused on your projects, and I felt invisible." Her words cut deeper than the betrayal itself. I thought of the hours I'd spent sanding wood, restoring antiques, trying to build something lasting for us. Had I missed her? Had I pushed her away? The guilt gnawed, but so did the anger. "You could have talked to me," I said. "Instead, you broke us." The next morning, Claire knocked on our door. Her face was pale, her eyes red-rimmed. "I know," she said simply, holding up her phone. A photo of Sarah and Mark, caught in an embrace outside the hotel. "I hired someone to follow him. I needed to be sure." Her voice was steady, but her hands shook. "What do we do now?" I looked at her, a stranger bound to me by shared betrayal. The house felt smaller, the walls closing in. Sarah was upstairs, packing a bag, her apology still ringing hollow. I didn't know if I'd forgive her, or if I even wanted to try. But as Claire stood there, her pain mirroring mine, I realized the twist. We weren't just victims. We were survivors, forced to rebuild from the ashes of trust. And in that moment, I wondered if the real betrayal was how easily we'd all let love slip through our fingers.